Today we're going to start a new series. For now, I'm going to call Reader's Corner, but we'll see how well that ages over time. But I wanted to read, articles, papers, essays, blogs from people that I think have some interesting, provocative thoughts that I really like, that I want to dig into. Some of these I haven't even read before. I'm just going to jump into and just start reading and react as I read. Hopefully that's interesting for you guys. Maybe you guys don't have time to read, as I don't usually. And so this isn't going to be an experiment. I'm going to grab stuff that's old, stuff that's really fresh, etc. But yeah, that's the Reader's Corner. So first up, we're going to jump into The Intelligence Age by Sam Altman. Now, of course, Sam is, the figure of the era. Easily one of the most famous, if not the most famous people in AI, especially because he was CEO once of Y Combinator and then was is currently CEO of OpenAI. And yeah, so let's jump into The Intelligence Age. So I haven't read this yet, but I hear good things. In the next couple of decades, we will be able to do things that would have seemed like magic to our grandparents. The phenomenon is not new, but it will be newly accelerated. People have become dramatically more capable over time. We can already accomplish things that our predecessors would have believed to be impossible. We are more capable not because of genetic change, but because we benefit from the infrastructure of society being way smarter and more capable than any one of us. In an important sense, society itself is a form of advanced intelligence. Our grandparents and the generations that came before them built and achieved great things. They contributed to the scaffolding of human progress that we all benefit from. AI will give people tools to solve hard problems, and people help us add new struts to that scaffolding that we couldn't have figured out on our own. The story of progress will continue, and our children will be able to do things we can't. I agree with the sentiment. I mean, it's crazy that in the last 100 years, so much has changed. I mean, it's great that there's a painting here, because sometimes I go to a museum and I see, people paintings from people who they didn't even have electricity, and it's kind of mind blowing to think about. And so this kind of network, this mesh network essentially of innovation in the last 100 years is immense, insane, and completely insane. And so, yeah, and very inspiring. Well, actually, 100, even 100 years, 200, 300 years, I should say, about people without electricity. But nevertheless, it's not long ago, right? It won't happen all at once, but we'll soon be able to work with AI that helps us accomplish much more than we ever could without AI. Now, of course, he's selling his book here, but eventually we can each have a personal AI team full of virtual experts in different areas working together to create almost anything we can imagine. Our children will have virtual tutors who can provide personalized instruction in any subject, in any language, and at whatever pace they need. We can imagine similar ideas for better healthcare, the ability to create any kind of software someone can imagine, and much more. I mean, we can imagine it, but it's hard to, isn't there that I can't remember who said it, but it was like, maybe you could have predicted the highway, but you could not have predicted Walmart, meaning it's hard to predict the knock-on effect, which potentially has a bigger impact than the initial innovation, which is say highways. You could have predicted, yes, that eventually we had cars, so eventually we wanted to have faster cars on faster roads, but could you have predicted that leading to suburbia and the consumer culture around suburbia that then needed to have a Walmart, which helped to commoditize a bunch of different products and make it easier and accessible, etc. So although Sam is saying, there's a lot of things that we could imagine, there's also things that I just cannot imagine at all, and none of us are going to be able to imagine, not even AI, right? There is a kind of a game theory aspect to this. With these new abilities, we can have shared prosperity to a degree that seems unimaginable today. In the future, everyone's lives can be better than anyone's life is now. Prosperity alone doesn't necessarily make people happy. There are plenty of miserable rich people, but it would meaningfully improve the lives of people around the world. I love that, his initial instinct here is to mention rich people, not poor people. I mean, this is where I wonder, because OpenAI has made ChatGPT 4.0, I think, free for everybody, and Santa apparently this week, but it, it doesn't allow us to have O1 and potentially O3 for free for everybody, right? And so there's going to be that advantage for people who can afford, that $200 or $20 a month to use, ChatGPT Pro and O3 and O1, right? So I think that's kind of an interesting dilemma there that I'm not clear on how that resolves itself, because I think this is going to remain true, that the business models of all these people from Anthropic to OpenAI to whatever, they are incentivized because of revenues to provide the best AI to people who can afford it, and then provide a less good AI to everybody else. So what does that look like? I mean, right now, like, we definitely all benefit from, let's say, smartphones being cheaper and available to everybody, but it's a fact that, certain people can afford better smartphones or apps in their smartphones that therefore improve their lives in meaningful ways that, the average person, which, by the way, 2.8 billion people in the world live under $10,000 a year. And so can those people afford AI that meaningfully changes their lives? Yes, but can they afford the better AI? Maybe not. So that's an interesting note there. Here's one narrow way to look at human history. After thousands of years of compounding scientific discovery and technological progress, we have figured out how to melt sand, add some impurities, arrange it with astonishing precision at extraordinarily tiny scale into computer chips, run energy through it, and end up with systems capable of creating increasingly capable artificial intelligence. This may turn out to be the most consequential fact about all of history so far. It is possible that we will have superintelligence in a few thousand days, ! It may take longer, but I'm confident we'll get there. Okay, so he's not quite defining superintelligence here, but I guess he's going to leave that to other essays. But a few thousand days, I mean, he wrote this in September 23, 2024. So 1,000 days is just within a few years. Yeah, fascinating. That he's bold enough to make that prediction, but of course he's selling his book and he's been making predictions like that for years, even decade. So how do we get to the doorstep of the next leap in prosperity? In 3 words, deep learning worked. In 15 words, deep learning worked, but got particularly better with scale, and we dedicated increasing resources to it. That's really it. Humanity discovered an algorithm that could really, truly learn any distribution of data, or really the underlying rules that produce any distribution of data. I think this is good for people to know who are like observing AI or don't understand what's happening in AI. I mean, this is what's happening, right? Is that they're throwing data at algorithms, and these algorithms are understanding the underlying rules, as he says here. To a shocking degree of precision, the more compute and data available, the better it gets at helping people solve hard problems. Although, to be fair to this, I do think that I wonder, there has been some rumors that ChatGPT 5 has hit some kind of thresholds on growth and progress. So I wonder if that is actually captured here in his kind of selling of his book. But, and as a result, that's why they had to go with reasoning models using O1, O3, where you're having the base ChatGPT 4 model essentially take a step back and think more in order to get better answers, rather than having ChatGPT 5, a smarter base model out the gate. I find that no matter how much time I spend thinking about this, I can never really internalize how consequential it is. There are a lot of details we still have to figure out, but it's a mistake to get distracted by any particular challenge. Deep learning works, and we will solve the remaining problems. We can say a lot of things about what may happen next, but the main one is that AI is going to get better with scale, and that will lead to meaningful improvements to the lives of people around the world. Again, to who, right? AI models will soon serve as autonomous personal assistants who carry out specific tasks on our behalf, like coordinating medical care on your behalf. At some point further down the road, AI systems are going to get so good that they help us make better next generation systems and make scientific progress across the board. I mean, this is what I'm definitely most excited about, is like to what extent AI is going to help us in terms of scientific, especially medical progress. Are we going to solve, let's say, like cancer in our lifetimes in the next, let's say, 10 years? I mean, if we are set to have superintelligence in the next, let's say, 2 to 3 years, that's 1,000 days, or is that 4 years? Then how far are we from solving really, really big problems? And even like warp, is that even possible? I don't know. But at the same time, this is like the very bullish take, right? Technology brought us from the Stone Age to the agricultural age and then to the industrial age. And from here, the path to the intelligence age is paved with compute, energy, and human will. So obviously, he's trying to, create a new narrative for a new age here, which I don't think he's wrong. Like the moment that everybody has like a PhD level intelligence in their pocket, I wonder what that means for how society evolves around that, And like the fact that right now I can Google for something, but Google is limited in its like intelligence. It's more like just knowledge and facts, and intelligence implies, in fact, it does to a certain extent imply some kind of wisdom about, rather than looking up, let's say, like, what is my favorite, what are the best ice creams in this place? And it gives you a bunch of other people's ideas. In this case, the intelligence could maybe understand me. It could understand what I need and understand my favorite tastes and incorporate all of that into my decision making. And so like, I say the ice cream example, one, because I just had some ice cream, but also because it provokes a different type of approach to a very menial problem. And so like if menial problems at large, at scale across the world are being nudged along by an intelligence in everybody's pocket, that is very different from me I'm hitting a problem and then having to like do the research and figure it out and then go back and solve that problem, right? Whereas that problem can be solved right there on the spot because the intelligence enables me to do so, in theory, right? So if we want to put AI into the hands of as many people as possible, speaking of, we need to drive down the cost of compute and make it abundant, which requires lots of energy and chips. If we don't build enough infrastructure, AI will be a very limited resource that wars get fought over and that becomes mostly a tool for rich people. We're already, as I mentioned, already in this phase in a certain way. Only the people who can raise billions of dollars can create the AI. At the same time, he's clearly selling his book again to a certain extent because he is the CEO of a company that needs to raise billions of dollars in order to provide a product that is useful. So this is the alignment of the mission as well as kind of selling the book here. But I get it because I think that you don't get to meaningful AI without an astronomical amount of money. Maybe at the end of this journey where we as humanity have spent like $1 trillion on this problem, right? We need to act wisely, but with conviction. The dawn of the intelligence age is a momentous development with very complex and extremely high stakes challenges. It will not be an entirely positive story, but the upside is so tremendous that we owe it to ourselves and the future to figure out how to navigate the risks in front of us. I believe the future is going to be so bright that no one can do it justice by trying to write about it now. Irony, he's writing about it. A defining characteristic of the intelligence age will be massive prosperity. One hopes, right? The caveat is that he just said it could become a limited resource that wars get fought over, right? Although it will happen incrementally, astounding triumphs fixing the climate, establishing a space colony, and the discovery of all of physics will eventually become commonplace. With nearly limitless intelligence and abundant energy, the ability to generate great ideas, and the ability to make them happen, we can do quite a lot. As we've seen with other technologies, there will also be downsides, and we need to start working now to maximize AI's benefits while minimizing its harms. As one example, we expect that this technology can cause a significant change in labor markets, good and bad, in the coming years. But most jobs will change more slowly than most people think, and I have no fear that we'll run out of things to do, even if they don't look like real jobs to us today. People have an innate desire to create and to be useful to each other, and AI will allow us to amplify our own abilities like never before. As a society, we will be back in an expanding world, and we can again focus on playing positive sum games. I don't know when did we ever have positive sum games? He frames that as again. I wonder when he thinks that was true. Many of the jobs we do today would have looked like trifling wastes of time to people a few hundred years ago, but nobody's looking back at the past, wishing they were a lamplighter. If a lamplighter could see the world today, he would think the prosperity all around him was unimaginable. And if we could fast forward 100 years from today, the prosperity all around us would feel just as unimaginable. I mean, I have to say, like, as a person who is optimistic about AI, I mean, this is clearly a very, very optimistic take on AI with some caveats of like wars fought and things like that. But like, AI definitely could get into it has super villain potentiality as well. But, you know, looking at the last, say, 60, 70 years of human history on the brink of a hot war against a cold war, a nuclear war, World War II, all these things like definitely are a cautionary tale with, the current wars that are happening now. Like, what do they portend for a humanity that is soon to get a super intelligence? I'm not sure. And would abundance of intelligence necessarily solve a resource constrained problem? And will we, because of intelligence, traverse the stars with peace and prosperity without, fighting over the future and fighting over ideology? I mean, even now, when we look at US and China as a kind of hegemonic battle, it's interesting because this is not a resource battle necessarily. It is more of an ideological battle, a more of a hegemonic battle, more of a philosophical battle at large, a historical battle. So to what extent will an abundance of intelligence and maybe abundance of solved problems, where we all understand physics, we all understand medical cancer, we all understand, spacefaring and, physics, all these big problems, the climate, endangered species. If let's assume all of these things are solved, will human nature change, right? That I'm not sure of. And that definitely is a cause for concern. But at the same time, I also share the kind of optimism that Sam has about the future with AI. Like, I do think that there is a kind of a potentiality here where we can really dream of things that we never could and unlock types of creativity and stories and technologies, obviously scientific discoveries, all of these things that could happen in the next few years. And of course, hundreds of years after that. That makes me also optimistic about humanity in a way that I don't think I did prior to AI kind of arriving on the scene, or the AI, Gen AI world that we currently live in, arriving on the scene 2 years ago. So anyway, that's Intelligence Age from Sam Altman. And tune in for the next Reader's Corner. We'll be publishing them at least weekly. And thanks for listening. Talk to you in the next one.